Hatte schon das Event. Gut.
So, welcome to our third webinar today in our week full of webinars. And we are basically doing these webinars all out the week because we had to cancel our physical event that was planned actually for today. So exactly now we should have been in a very nice location close to Frankfurt, but due to the actual situation, we had to switch to our live event to a series of webinars. But that nevertheless give us the chance also to record the stuff. And we had also yesterday already some very nice webinars. And let me give you some more information about all of these webinars. So as I just said, we already had yesterday a very nice keynote from Dirk Bloss, and it's ready for streaming now. So if you are interested in that, then just go either to our webpage or on LinkedIn on the event. You'll find then the recording from yesterday. And we also had yesterday a first webinar day with Peter Ashmonite and Christoph Kwiatkowski from Quantilope, which is a very interesting tool for doing market research online, or basically being faster and more responsive to the market. But today, we are also, let me give, just before we go to today, today we have, Mirko Holzer, I'll come to that in a second, a small outlook to the next days. So tomorrow we will have a very nice webinar with Mark Zieslik, former colleague of mine, and he is co-founder of Content Pepper, which is a digital experience platform. And if you don't know about digital experience automation and also multi-channeling content management systems and things like that, then it's an absolutely must to join us tomorrow, or at least later on stream the session. And then on Thursday, we have the honor to have our own webinar with Renata Dadic from Deutsche Bank, and she will also give us some more insight on how basically to the future of marketing automation, and also the roadmap, how you can empower your people to. On Friday, it's really a pleasure for us to host another keynote at the end of our week full of webinars with Scott Brinker, working for HubSpot, but maybe more known for his marketing landscape, which he creates year by year as a chief editor at chiefmartech.com. And you may not know his name, but you may have seen already this marketing landscape, MarTech landscape, which is showing now, meanwhile, more than 5,000 different products in different categories of marketing technology. But that should be enough for advertisements. Let's come to our today's meeting, and I'm looking really forward to the presentation about Brandmaker's MRM, and better to say about the usage of MRM. And those who don't know, marketing resource management, also maybe known as marketing operations management, is not so new, but a very important category of products which help you to manage your marketing resources, and also to basically tackle the challenge that usually your you work with more agencies, you have less time, and you create more content in less time and with managing more budget. So instead of using Excel to its extent, you can also use for that the marketing operations management, resource management, sorry for that. And then we have the pleasure to introduce you to our speakers, but customers first. So we basically have also a real customer who's working with Brandmaker as a MRM. It's Stephan Giesecke from TMD Friction, a brake manufacturer who can stop everything, I guess. Yeah. So Stephan will tell us in a minute a little bit more about that. And he is basically since 4 years with TMD and will tell us about his experience with Brandmaker. Before that, he has also worked in different positions in marketing for in the tire business. And I know that he at that time used still Excel, so maybe he can give us also a little bit more insights about the difference between using Excel and MRM. But that leads me to Mirko Holzer, co-founder of Brandmaker, and we will hear a little bit more about this, from the mastermind behind Brandmaker and his 12 years with Brandmaker now, and we are really happy to get some more introduction about Brandmaker and the customer of Brandmaker from Mirko Holzer. Hello, Mirko.
Thank you very much, Michael, for the kind intro. Why would anybody need real-time insights into the marketing budget? Some of you might ask yourself. Well, have a look at this one here, the newest Tom Fishburne, my favorite cartoonist in MarTech. The strategic options in the recessions are freeze, let's cut expenses and try to ride it out, or flex, let's invest in what's working, or fix, let's change what's not working, or just freak out. Well, and this is the answer why you would need real-time insights in your marketing budget, so that you're actually able to act and react on what's necessary in an ever faster changing world. And I'm not telling this only in the context of Corona, but in general, because today's marketing teams need to be agile with data and people who are always up to date. Marketing can't excel without mastering management of internal operations. And, you know, a lot of people are talking about data-driven marketing or about real-time marketing, but what is the basis of your decision? If you want to do a real-time marketing strategy or data-driven strategy, then you need a basis where you can decide on. And, you know, frequently cited analysis found out that 88% of Excel spreadsheets are faulty. That means the fine line between being agile and ending up in chaos is something that you really need to manage. And TMD Friction has experienced the situation and solved this problem through establishing a common platform for the budget management. At this point, I'm really happy to welcome Stephan Giesecke from TMD Friction, which are the global leaders in brake friction technology. As Michael just said, they are stopping anything from passenger cars, racing cars, commercial vehicles, industrial applications. TMD Friction drives excellence in braking through reliable and safe solutions. And at Brandmaker, we work with TMD since a while. We have implemented a centralized platform which helps the whole company to have a real-time and shared marketing planning, marketing budgeting, and marketing controlling operations throughout the whole organization. This results in a strongly increased effectiveness, but it's not me or I who should go into this detail and tell you more. I'm happy to hand over to Stephan Giesecke now, who will tell us all the details.
Yeah, hello and welcome everybody from my side. Yeah, I try to share my presentation as well, and hopefully that is working. Is that good? Apparently.
This works perfectly.
It is. Perfect. Okay, good. So, again, welcome from my side. What a title. me again. I'm Stephan Giesecke, Head of Regional Marketing for the independent aftermarket at TMD Friction. And as such, I am responsible for the global operational marketing. And with that comes also the control over the budget. Normally, if I don't have an introduction like this, I normally have to spend 30 seconds on one question. Now, that would be, what is TMD Friction? As said, TMD Friction is one of the very few brake friction material manufacturers. So our core competence is that little black block that sits on a steel plate that makes up your brake pad. And normally, if we have these kind of gatherings, I would ask who came here by car and who would arrive here alive if the brakes did not do their job or were simply not there. And let's say your car is one of the following marks, or just in general, one of the major manufacturers. The probability is quite high that there is a TMD Friction engineer you owe your life to. So you're welcome. And the same accounts for the truck that didn't hit your back because its brakes didn't work. Also, most of the world's commercial vehicle manufacturers trust in TMD Friction materials. So that aside, let's start with the actual webinar. And one of the most famous quotes in marketing, and especially in budgeting, probably comes from Mr. Wanamaker, being, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. And that was so good that another person is quoted with the same thing, and who lived a little bit later, probably even more often. So there seems to be something about it if two pioneers like that give their names to that statement. Nowadays, we probably sometimes feel like we don't really have these problems because we have all this technology and we have clever KPIs, and probably the most interesting one, or the one most fitting here, is the ROI, or the return on the marketing investment. And we are obsessed with it, aren't we? You know, if we search the internet, we find so many explanations how to calculate it. We must understand it, don't we? And I have to say, not all of these are very, very easy to use in daily life, from my point of view at least. So if you boil it down, you probably come down to something where it says effect per cost. And the modern marketing literature, and also the discussion that is running over the last years, is, from my point of view, focused very much on measuring the effect in order to determine if something is waste or no waste. And the good news about this is that marketing has become more and more digital, which is nice. I mean, look at this webinar. We are invited by a company that's called XQ Digital. The big advantage is that we have dashboards, KPIs, as many as we want, and we can measure everything in absolute numbers. We don't even have to extrapolate. And there are 19-year-old dropshippers that know to the cent how much they have spent in advertisement for each and every sale. So does that mean we are at the end? We can stop this talk here. Unfortunately, in 2018, Rakuten Advertising conducted a global research and found out that also then approximately 26% of all the marketing budget was supposed to be wasted. Now, if you are a company that is working digital or is marketing digitally almost entirely, then it's still, you're probably on the better side. If you're a company like TMD Friction with a very strong B2B focus and being more than 100 years old, I think we might even be on the more traditional side of B2B marketing. You probably would find a marketing mix like this very, very fitting. Even though this is from 2016 and it's German, which I want to excuse myself for, it probably looks very, very similar still. Even though that events and fairs are still at the top, which will change or is changing at the moment, pretty much, I think. The more striking part is that online advertisement is situated very, very low, or is not getting the attention it might need to get. And for example, promotional merchandise giveaways are ranking above it. And I don't think there's any company represented here in the audience that does not have a budget for giveaways and would not use them. And if we look over the last 3 years, every year we spent 30 million euros more in Germany, totaling at almost 3.6 billion euros in Germany alone, and 15 billion euros in Europe in 2019. So again, we probably have the idea that it has some kind of an effect. And we get great statistics. I mean, we are so desperate apparently about the effect that we think that statements like these are okay to explain that the effect is there. But I mean, they're so sophisticated, they have to be true, don't they? 89% of consumers can recall the advertiser of a promotional product they have received in the past 2 years. Of course, why wouldn't they? But wasn't there a much more striking number on the slides before? I mean, one that is easy to gather and that also can give you some kind of a conclusion. And wouldn't it be more interesting maybe sometimes to actually look at the costs? Because looking at the numbers before, 3.6 billion euros in Germany means that of all the 46 million people in Germany aged between 18 and 59 years old received 78 euros in a year in giveaways. And I don't know about you, but to me that does not sound like that was a good investment. So also from the costs itself, you can already draw quite a bit of information and notice whether you are wasting your money or you're not wasting your money. There of course can always be cases where it's okay to spend 70 or 100% of your advertising budget in promotional merchandise. But most of the time, you're probably wrong. And the only way to find out whether it's 100% or not is by knowing how much you spend. So obviously, common sense dictates you have to track your costs, right? And as said in the beginning, I have started in 3 different companies over the last 9 years, and each time I was responsible for the budget. And of course, the first question you ask is, hey, show me the expenses in marketing for the last year, or for the last years even. And this is when the Excel sheet mayhem starts. And I experienced 5 different stages of Excel madness or sophistication. And the first stage would be, I wrote it down on an Excel sheet. I mean, you could then also actually use a Word document or maybe a napkin. Or then the next one would be using free templates. And these are normally very pretty, but they're normally the start to a sales funnel of a company like Brandmaker or its competitors. And they normally don't go much further than a what if or some if formula, which is nice for the beginning, but in the end, they will never fit to the needs you have. Going a step further, you might come to the point where you share your financial data with the finance department. That normally looks like receiving a sheet per month, maybe with a week or maybe even with a half a month delay. So you can always look back, did I spend my money on something that I didn't want to spend it on, or is everything okay? But you can't really steer anything anymore. If you can exchange that data more frequently, and maybe even whenever you want, you come to the point where you have real-time visibility. Still, other challenges remain, of course, but however, it is possible in Excel, actually quite simply, to come to the point where you have a sheet that will list all your projects and activities and might even automatically track your costs to the specific projects and also give you a sum on the attribute, on the category that you want. And the moment you come to that point, you will maybe come to the situation where you realize that Excel is a one-man show today. User management is a real problem. However, 365 and Google Spreadsheets might improve this problem, but still, you will need a massive amount of skill throughout the complete team to keep an Excel sheet running. And we just hear that 88% of the Excel sheets that are used are wrong. And I think we've all been there where somebody destroyed your formula, or you've been working in a wrong version of an Excel sheet because it was just stored on someone's desktop and not where it was supposed to be. However, I want to think that my Excel sheets were correct. Anyways, let's say you have come to the point where your Excel sheet is working. You will still not be finished because there are more problems to the whole thing, because you have to face the accountants. And the bottlenecks that you normally come across are as follows. There is a lack of understanding for the marketing department's need for support. So for example, you get the question very often, can you show me all your activities for last year? And then people are wondering why you're coming up with a list of 500 or 1,000 items. There's just no understanding for how sophisticated or what the volume is of your marketing activities. Or a very popular line is cut those activities that are not needed. But there are no activities that are not needed or are useless, are there? So that is one problem of understanding the marketing department. Then, I mean, we can face it. No one of us ended up in marketing because we liked those lectures about accounting the most during business studies. So also there, maybe there's not the talent for a marketeer to be an accountant. And we might know this from our hobbies. If I like to play soccer, I might not be fond of those people not playing soccer well. So if I'm an accountant and there's somebody who's not good at accounting, maybe I don't like him that much. Maybe. Another thing is, a lot of the tools that are offered normally need a lot of human labor. So you need to enter all your data by hand. And that causes a natural thing, which is human error. So you spend a lot of time, you put in a lot of effort into your tool, but in the end, just somebody makes a mistake and you end up with a broken file. And again, you don't have data that you can use. Then, of course, the exchange with the financial department. As pointed out before, personalities in marketing departments and in accounting departments sometimes may differ. So it starts not to be easy sometimes. Then it might be quite difficult for some of the finance people to actually supply the data you need without giving you access to data you're not supposed to see. Let's say, for example, payroll information. And then, of course, the formats and the technical challenges. Some of the files you receive from finance departments will not state a single letter, and you have no idea what all the transaction codes might stand for, how to use them. And in the end, you will not know what one of the 5,000 invoices or bookings actually was done for. Maybe a little bit on the side, or a question that normally comes up. Why wouldn't you use your ERP to track your marketing costs? And normally the accounting people would say, yes, we do. There is an account, or there's a GL code for marketing, which is nice. So you know the overall sum, but you don't know what you spend it for. And normally the effort to create a new general ledger code or a new cost center normally exceeds the use you have for a simple activity or a simple project. And the same thing actually accounts for project management software, because project management software normally focuses on the tasks and not on the budget. So also, as a rule of thumb, a project management software like Clarizon or MS Project or OpenProj will focus on only a few projects with many, many tasks. While what we need, especially for budget control, is something that will allow us to deal with many projects and only a few tasks, but with a strong focus on the invoices standing behind it. So let's say you have done all. Excel sheet is running, or another tool is running, and you have talked to the finance people, you have access, and you receive all the data in the format that you needed. I had several different experience, or there are a lot of anecdotes, and I found agency costs for internal events. We paid for offices, coffee machines, so nothing to give away, but something we used ourselves. SAP fees, leasing costs, and even 5-digit amounts for logistics costs that all ended up in marketing somehow and would have normally diminished the budgets. So this can come from even purposely being booked to marketing because the marketing people don't realize it, huh? Or it's just originating from mistakes or a lack of care, which always can happen. But the important thing is that you need to find it. So coming back to our two pioneers, at their times, looking at the effect probably wasn't easy, and I don't think actually even a real question. But if we look at what we've just seen before, the problems we have nowadays, gathering the costs within our organization, how in the world should Mr. Wanamaker and Mr. Ford in their organization have known what they spend their money on? We're talking about books and ink and telegraphs and huge enterprises. So from my point of view, I think it's much more common or much more logical that they were actually not referring to the waste on something that they don't know or did not know the outcome of, but that they were actually referring to half of the money they spend and they did not know what they spent the money on. And what are the problems that come with a lack of cost control? And as the two said, yes, waste, of course. And on the other hand, if you have a budget and you don't track your costs, you end up with exceeding your expenses quite easily. So you need to have an eye on it. The more severe problem, from my point of view, would be having a budget, not tracking your costs, not knowing what you still have to spend over the year, and then ending up at the end of the year with a budget that is not being used. And we all know that situation where somebody says like, oh, it's December, we need to still buy something because we need to get rid of some budget. And I mean, I investigated a little bit in this topic, and the most severe case that I came across was about 1.5 million euros that just simply were forgotten to spend in the middle of December. And again, that is absolutely tragic. If I was an accountant and I was working with people that deal with money like that, I would not have fun working with them, I think. So let's recap for a second. We noticed that knowing the costs is probably even more important than knowing the effect of a measure in order to know whether it's wasted or not. We need to deal with Excel or any other tool so that we can actually manage our costs. And then it's also the problem of acquiring the data that can bring up challenges. And then again, we end up at the one-man show because Excel and spreadsheets are just hopeless when it comes to user management. And yeah, the funny anecdote is that in all the three companies I now mentioned, was that a wonderful salesperson of Brandmaker came along and tried his best to sell the marketing planner, which is wonderful. But 2 times I was able to say, no, I can do everything with Excel, thank you. And the 3rd time I couldn't resist anymore, and actually I needed it. So I had to say yes. And in the end, we introduced Media Pool and Marketing Planner. Now, of course, everyone introducing myself asked me to show our instance of Marketing Planner, but I had to refuse, unfortunately, because, I mean, yes, we have our secrets, and second, we would need another 1.5 hours to explain everything. So it just simply does not make sense. But what we have now is something that has a very, very good user management. So we can control who sees what. Nobody sees the budget of somebody else. We have the possibility to update our costs automatically because there's a very flexible interface. And we have the possibility to upload and also download everything that is in there, which is making things a lot easier. And also the build-up of our marketing plan structure is very, very flexible. So somebody sitting in Dubai might have a completely different structure in his marketing plan as my colleague in Russia. So, and my approach was to give everyone the freedom to design their plan as they wanted to, so that they stand behind it. And from my point of view, that is working very, very well. Now, what are the benefits around it? We sometimes have that question, do we still have money for that great new idea I have? The good thing is, yes, we can say yes or no, because we just know we don't have to wait until December until we notice everything has been spent or everything has been saved. When we are asked every quarter about our forecast or the accruals, it's a push of a button and accruals are almost perfect and the forecast is there. So that is actually very, very comfortable if I compare it to the times when it was a week or 1.5 of fighting with Excel and correcting formulas and reporting. And if we are able to provide financial data like that, we might make life of the finance people a lot easier, I noticed. And they become a lot more friendly because they also notice that they make mistakes, because we have come to the point where the marketing department also tells the controlling people where their mistakes are. And I mean, you have to do it in a charming way still, but after all, you become a team. It's not people knowing about something, telling the other people off that don't know about something. No, it's a team. We all know, not the same, of course, but we know what we need to know and we provide the information to help the other person. And as the cherry of the cake, coming back to the two pioneers, over the last 3 years, we actually managed to find that wasted half and we're able to make substantial savings. Normally, I would also quote Benjamin Franklin here, who states that the saved penny is an earned penny. And of course, that helps. Because I become very, very fond of this whole topic, I'm very, very interested in challenges that other companies face, or to see how they solved some of the issues. So in case you want to connect or write me an email, I'd be delighted to hear from you. And probably there will be some more questions. And for that, I want to thank you. And let's see what I have told you. And if there were some more questions to come.
Thank you, Stephan. This was really amazing. And what I was asking myself while I followed your presentation is, you said you're cutting through the waste. This is a huge success, but obviously marketing is not only about cutting, but obviously also about shining. How would you measure your success since working with this new process? Is it more on the savings side or more on the success side, or both, or smoother cooperation? What is your KPI, your internal KPI, how you measure success?
I mean, of course, it's the usage of the budget. Yeah, so we seem to keep activities on the same level or even increase our awareness in some markets, which we can also measure by the increase of turnover. And at the same side, we are able to invest less in marketing. So that definitely would be a KPI. I mean, one other thing would be the time we spend in our, for example, the tracking of the costs. And I know in one of the user conferences, we had a theoretical calculation where we looked at the 22 different regions and how much time they would need by 20-minute upload, for example, of the costs. And I think we came to something of 670 hours over the whole year that the whole team was spending. And now it's for one person. And yes, there's still that one person that has to do the work. Is now spending about 30 hours a year by uploading financial data. That sounds a lot. It's a whole work week, but if you spread it out, it's probably less than going to the toilet or getting coffee from the canteen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned in your when you gave us your presentation, you said marketers are tending not to become a marketer due to the fact that there are so many nice numbers and finance stuff, because then they would have been a finance person. So I think saving on this side is a huge step forward. There are two more questions from the audience. The first one is an interesting one because you said you have this user rights and roles management. Only everybody sees what he's supposed to see, and the question is which units, which persons, who is working with the system in your company right now?
So when it comes to budget, we have a regional marketing team which consists of roughly 20 people. We have some shared roles, and who are spread throughout the world, and they have more or less complete access to their region. So they can see their expenses. They can also manipulate the expenses and so on. Then we have people on the management level who can see expenses of all the regions, but they cannot fiddle around with it. So there's one person who can change and who will stay responsible, but there are these others that have the insight. Then we also have, so far it's still a limited number of external users that can access the marketing plans without actually seeing the expenses at all, or only parts of it that they are responsible for. So actually we can steer that very, very well. I mean, there are limitations to everything, and we don't want to overcomplicate things, but compared to Excel, it's an absolute game changer.
Thank you. There's another question from the audience. What kinds of obstacles did you need to overcome to get this going? And after you successfully introduced it, what was your first quick win that the team reported to you?
The first quick win. I mean, whenever introducing some new software, what were the obstacles? There were no obstacles. No, of course. I mean, whenever you introduce something new, yes, there are obstacles. And there are times where I scream at my screen. And I mean, I think that's fair to say. But for example, I mean, we are in very close contact with Brandmaker. I mean, this is how these talks come up as well. And thanks for that. You're very open to suggestions and changes. An obstacle would, of course, be these changes have to become faster. Sure. Yesterday would be best. But in the beginning, I think server speed was an issue. So the system was a bit draggy, which is now a lot better. And then, of course, I mean, introducing or setting up the whole structure. Of course, the Brandmaker consultants repeated it several times. Build up your structure first, but that again would have come to the cost of flexibility that what I pointed out beforehand. So my choice was no, leave out the structure and go for flexibility. I still think it was the right choice. By now, I probably would have implemented the one or the other attribute to make it easier to get things in order. But I think these are just learnings that you have to make and that are very special to our case as well. And I think other people might experience a lot of different difficulties as well with that. So.
Yeah, thank you, Stephan, for being so open. I mean, the thing is, what I also initially said, this fine line between agility and chaos, everybody needs to walk this line somehow, make the decisions, what is the right path forward. So I think the second part of the question is also pretty interesting, because then after you walked this line, after you did it, what was the first quick win that the team reported to you?
The first quick win is difficult. I would say, like, when it came to the end of the year, that we just said, like, yes, we are within budget and we are not over, we are not under. It's, yeah, we spent the money correctly, and I don't find those things where I have to justify myself, like, why did we spend that and that stupid project, or why did we fund that project? So that, I think, it was more that surprise. Hey, why is that working? Yeah, so just happened. It can be that easy, more or less. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Easy.
Yeah. Makes absolutely sense. Great. The next question that was just coming in is, oh, that's an interesting one, because it's always the question, is transparency good or bad? Did your way of marketing budgeting changed through this new transparency? You just talked about management having direct connection to the system and can see what's happening. I mean, this is what we talked about, real-time visibility. Did this change the way how you actually work or how you do marketing or how you budget?
It actually, I mean, a very traditional way would be of just budgeting by planned turnover, yeah? Giving a certain percentage of what you can do. Also, before we already had the approach not only to focus on the planned turnover, but also on feasibility. So that means, what is the team on site capable of? Do I have the manpower to actually spend the money? And also, what do I want to achieve? And I don't want to say that transparency now enables us to fully work in this way, but it definitely has enabled us to be a lot more stronger in that. So, I mean, before you could have said, okay, we have that much of our business is in that and that region, so we have to allocate accordingly our budgets to that region. And maybe because they can do a little bit more, they even get a little bit more, or they can do a little bit less. So we reduce it a little bit and give it to that other region we want to develop a bit more. Now this effect of basing it on turnover has become a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So some regions now have to come out. I mean, they are not always happy about it, of course, but they have to come out or deal with a lot smaller budget than other regions that have increased their budget a lot, because we noticed there's a lot more we can do this is also when we focus a little bit on effect and not only on costs, but we see we don't have that many costs there. We can get a lot more for the cost.
That makes a lot of sense. There's one more question that I'm seeing often and also at other clients, and I was wondering how you solved that. You're a very international company, and one and the same thing, one and the same concept is meaning different things in different countries. You know, the same word can have different meanings even. How did you solve this semantics challenge when moving to one centralized way of working together? Did you define a common understanding, or what was your way forward?
So, I mean, it even has one more challenge. I mean, as I said before, there are a lot of changed roles. So it's not one completely 100% educated marketeer in every region. I mean, there are some, yes, but there are some where there are just simply not enough people, or where business is just not large enough to justify full position. So you have somebody who might not have an education in marketing. So throwing around our fancy terminology, which I have to say is quite something to struggle with, even if you did your education, let's say 10 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're making our life very difficult here anyways. So we introduced some of our own terminology to make it even more complicated, of course. Yeah? When it comes to some points. So for example, we coined the term of dead planned budget. So you planned 100,000 euros for a fair, you only spend 80,000. The 20,000, if you don't allocate them, they stay in your planning, and in December you will notice they're dead. Yeah, so that is something. And for the rest, it is a lot of training also. So, and it's everyday learning. So we spend a lot of time training people. I mean, also people change sometimes. If there are changes within the system, also there's a lot of training. But this is more or less how we deal with it. We do, like, every day we talk about it, and if there's something new, we define ourselves and agree on how to name it and how to talk about it.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very pragmatic and very useful way forward. Right now I'm seeing no more questions from the audience. So I think we can call it a day. And thank you very much, Stephan Giesecke. This was very insightful. And yeah, see you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, see you soon as well.
Yeah, also thank you from my side, Stephan and Mirko. Thanks a lot for having this really nice talk. And I have to say, Stephan, great slides. I like your slides. It's very illustrative and self-explaining. So it was our pleasure to have you today and getting some insight. So let me give you some outlook for tomorrow. And don't miss the webinar that we will host tomorrow with Content Pepper. And we just need to get the slides live here. And first need to get on here. And then you will see in a second also the slide for our digital experience automation, which will happen tomorrow. And we all hope that you enjoyed the talk today and will join us tomorrow at 4:30 again for the nice talk with Mark Giesecke and Patrick Rember. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.